Day 2, the Rendezvous series with the founder of FarmHawk. Yesterday I did a live session and got good comments and feedback, and I keep getting some questions on who exactly we are, and I will talk about that. But today's topic will be more on climate change, the reality that we are in, and how it is affecting smallholder farmers in the global south. We've seen a lot of climate change effects happening, changes like even in peak summer we have experienced floods just before harvest that caused a lot of loss to farmers in last year in southern part of India. We've observed similar things in Africa and other parts of the global south. So we'll get into all these points very soon, but it's important that we introduce ourselves as who we are, and then I'll probably delve into on how we have sustained in the last couple of years, and we'll take it from there. Let me share my screen so we know what we're talking about. So I want to just talk about the world we are in at the moment. But before we talk about FarmHawk, I really want to let people know that we are Kratos Innovation Labs. It's a company that was set up in 2016 in Singapore. We have since moved our operations from Singapore into UAE, where we are currently based in the moment. Couple of things that is important that how we sustained last 10 years. I think in some cases we were probably too early. For example, we did blockchain based traceability way back in 2018 for one of the biggest ranches in Texas, USA, near San Antonio. Then 2019, we built our very early platform on traceability and did help a lot of farmers before pandemic, hit the operations. But one thing I really want to understand that we almost didn't make it in 2024. Probably after crossing our 8th year of operations and sustenance. So as a founder, it's important that we give credit to people that really held our hands. And this is not a thankful speech, but this is something what I thought is important for people to understand if you're building as a founder and if you're building for a long, long time, like how we at Kratos have been doing for last 10 years. It's important to actually give credit to people who actually believed in you. I really want to thank my brother from Anamada, Ms. Deepak Singh. Literally, when a lot of people wrote off Kratos in 2024, he had a conviction to really held us tight. And I think it's important that we do that as a company. We really want to be grateful to people who are behind us. Having said that, let's get into the topic climate change. So we are almost now 24 years into 2050. By 2050, the world has to feed at least 9.7 billion people. And you can see the statistics here, how we have, as a Mother Earth, the population increased from 4.4 billion people to 7.3 billion in 2014. And we are sure to hit 9.725 billion. Well, the biggest problem that we foresee, and we are already seeing that the geopolitical changes that's happening across the world, is that we will see there'll be a lot of wars that will be fought over food and water. There are countries where there's scarcity of food, there's scarcity of water, and we talk about impending Other kinds of wars are happening, at least with some nations. But if we do not act today, I think that's going to be the biggest surprise we would have in the next 20, 25 years. Now, without everybody acting on climate action, and we see that the fact is that due to the climate change, approximately 500 million farmers, 475 to 500 million farmers, they are going to face 15.7% reduction in the food production. Yesterday I was talking about this, how much they produce uh, for the entire world. But if it goes down by 15.7%, that's going to be biggest calamity. Now today as we speak, 87% of the maize farmers and 66% of coffee farmers are already started experiencing negative impact due to pest attacks, due to water scarcity, due to uh, information that they are lacking to act upon at the right time. There is a tremendous crop loss even in the even before the pre-harvest. So I want to bring this point with a simple leaking funnel illustration. Imagine you have a funnel and you're trying to pour water into a bottle. Now, if there are no holes in the funnel, obviously the entire, let's say it's a 1 liter of water, it will definitely go into the bottle and you can see 1 liter of water. But today that's not the case with agriculture. So we typically talk about pre-harvest and post-harvest, which is important to understand. Pre-harvest is where we start, the farmers do the soil preparation, they put fertilizers during the growth stage, they do use pesticides if there's a pest attack, and they wait for the pre-harvest and the right time they would harvest produce, hoping that they get better prices. And in the post-harvest, it's exactly where we have the produce. The farmer has a produce, say for example rice, wheat, or black pepper, any of the commodities. But what is absurd with all the research that's happening in the last couple of years is that the farmer, if they are producing 10 tons of produce, 48% is already lost in the pre-harvest stage. So we have instances where there's 13 billion loss just for a fall armyworm attack in the maize farmers. I just touched upon this in the previous slide. 87% of the farmers in Africa are facing this today. Again, we talk about water scarcity. If there's a drought, there will be 6 to 8 billion loss easily. Now, this is interesting, right? Now, if you have floods coming in peak summer, which I touched based earlier on, there's no way the farmers could predict. Now, they are going to lose for sudden floods coming in. They are probably trying to harvest in 3 or 4 days, and suddenly there are these cyclones that come up and the floods that wipe off the entire hard work of 6 months for the farmers. This is happening with the harvest. So, if they're expecting 10 tons of produce, probably 5.2 tons is what they are getting it. Now, how do we take this 5.2%, sorry, 5.2 tons and still face about 36% post harvest losses? Now, a couple of things that are now that's happening in the global south are inadequate storage. Let's take rice. India has abundant rice production, but once the rice is procured, there are not enough warehouses where we could store that. The second problem is if there is too much of produce that happens, it normally happens in, for example, in non-perishable produce like black pepper. As we speak in January, this is the harvest season. Uh, Vietnam is the biggest producer, and we have northeastern India and western part of India where we do have this production, and same thing in Africa as well. So when there's a lot of production, a lot of supply that comes into the markets, obviously the price goes down. And most of these prices are determined by the middleman. So there's no direct market access to these farmers to be able to store. So for example, if you take black pepper, which is non-perishable, we could actually store it as long as 6 to 9 months. But if they had a way to actually discover a buyer that is ready to buy after 4 to 5 months and the prices go up, but these farmers do need a place to store this and be able to get instant liquidity. We'll talk about it how we have solved this, but idea is that in a daily series I'll keep sharing information which would be more informative for people to come in, understand. We see that we have perishables like fruits and vegetables, there's a 4 billion loss. In India, again, in order to get storage of, say, for example, rice or black pepper or wheat, there's a 13 billion loss. And of course, if you don't do the post-harvest management, there is a lot of COE that comes, carbon dioxide that comes into the market. This is a major issue in again northern part of India, northwestern part of India, where there's a lot of stubble that is burnt by the farmers because post harvest they still have to prepare the soil for the next harvest. So what they do is because there are no techniques available today to safely discard the stubble, they just burn it. And because they burn it, the entire pollution, the, the pollution index, the pollution moves towards the cities. We have places like Gurgaon and New Delhi in India that face the brunt of it when the stubble goes up. So these are all the facts. I thought it's very important to touch upon why climate change is affecting farmers in the global south. Good idea. So how could actually we solve this? So today, no company can claim that they can reduce from 40% to 0%. I don't think it's going to be possible in the next 100 years, even with the best of the best technologies. What we have envisaged with FarmHawk is to be able to reduce this loss from 48% to 33%. Again, this is not going to be possible in just one crop cycle. We are talking about 4 to 6 crop cycles, provided we reach the technology reaches the field officers, cooperatives, aggregators, and obviously the main beneficiary, the farmers. They could do GS mapping, precision agriculture alerts, pest detection. That's exactly what we have built in FarmHub today. I've shown a demo yesterday on how we are doing the precision agriculture. So we are now training models on the pest detection model called DPest. And what we could actually do in the post harvest is basically look like we could really start storing this, and we are coming out with Agri GPT within to integrate within FarmHawk so they can start chatting with uh, with the GPT, Agri GPT, to do enough price discovery. And obviously, we are also coming out with modules to do a traceability within the FarmHawk so that during the pre-harvest stage, they can now start uh, committing various milestones, for example, preparation of soil, growth, and pre-harvest how the crop is looking like. And because we use satellite imagery, we also stop any farmers from defrauding the system by using our own proprietary algorithms. But again, this is very important that we try to achieve almost 15% reduction here and about 18% reduction in the post-harvest, so that end of the day, if we can reduce all these percentages, it is definitely going to increase the bottom line of the farmer. That's the whole idea. And our objective has always been to be able to reduce the crop loss and increase the yield. So that way, it would help the farmer. So today we support 5 sustainable development goals from United Nations. No poverty. Uh, we want farmers to be bankable and uh, being unbanked. This is zero hunger. So the farmer that is producing the food today often goes hungry. So we want to avoid that. Obviously, good health and well-being of the farmers and the consumers that are consuming this. And we want to really look at responsible consumption and production of food and climate action, which is the biggest what we think is important. But for this session, I think I covered a couple of things. We'll come back to you tomorrow on how we are looking at all these points here. Thank you.